Hey, Greta, it's John, and talking to Kyle and thinking about some of the things you and I have talked about was really kind of helped to crystallize some ideas, and I thought I'd share them with you. I've created this kind of slide deck on Haiku Deck. I really love their, how they make it really easy to take some ideas and transform it into like a cool looking slide deck. So, anyways, hope you enjoy this and let me know what you think and stuff like that. So basically, what I've been thinking about in terms of the butterfly formula is what is it that like how do you really make some big changes with some small ideas and stuff, and really like the central question of course is like what keeps us from making the real changes in our lives. So one of the things that I came across recently was the idea of the struggle that we have with the elephant and the rider. If you're not familiar with it, it's basically this gentleman by the name of Jonathan Jonathan Haidt, Haidt. Anyways, so basically, it's a simple premise. It's one somewhat we're somewhat familiar with. The elephant is our emotional, irrational side, and it's such a huge part of our being and stuff. And we all know about how, underneath, like that whole iceberg analogy where we see the tip, and that's our conscious mind, but then there's so much just subconscious and that we're not conscious of other stuff, and that's the elephant. And the rider, of course, unless we master that, then there's not a whole lot that the rider can do, even with the best intentions. And so it's just basically the idea that fighting with our own natures is like betting against the house. So if you're not familiar with it, that's like kind of the idea in Vegas that the house always wins. Like it's just in the end, it's got the odds in their favor. So what I thought about was how did we start a movement by accident? And I'll send you the link to my article that I wrote. You may already be familiar with it, but basically, Argentine tango for the longest time has had this reputation of being this, rose in the teeth thing and stuff. And, like, it's weird, but I saw something there and something kind of grabbed me and I stuck with it. And I kind of like, I was curious. And so that's one of the things that I've been talking a lot about, the creative process and stuff, is the idea of curiosity, following these trails, these breadcrumbs, and seeing where it leads you. Like what I think for most people tango was it was too weird. Like kind of played these old scratchy music. People were doing these kind of moves that are like kind of really hard to learn and seems complicated and stuff. And it's just kind of like seems like this rigid kind of thing and stuff. But I don't know, something about it for me, like I just felt like there was something more to it. So sure enough, a few of us decided to try something different. What if we made tango friendly? If we like played more modern music? And what if we like were more accepting instead of like this kind of, looking down from their nose kind of attitude that a lot of tango dancers have? What if we, like made it inviting and stuff, and it was such a weird, radical concept. So really like what I learned from that experience was some of the things that I've taken from what's the Switch model, the book Switch by the Heath brothers, and which actually they first brought the idea of the elephant and the rider model to me, like, or at least that was the first time I was really exposed to it and stuff. And some of the key things I learned was, the idea of finding bright spots, like kind of, for me, like it was about, like kind of some of the moments that I enjoyed tango that like, like these glimmers of like kind of, connecting with somebody. And it was like, for maybe some people it was like about hitting on, like other people and stuff like that. But I knew there was something more to tango. It was something about connecting and something about, having fun. Like kind of, I mean, people in tango traditionally have this idea of like kind of the seriousness and all that kind of stuff. And I'm saying some of this, a lot of all this is because some of the things that, I find with the whole eco-friendly and, like kind of that movement and stuff like that, I think sometimes, people have this idea that's so hard and, like it's what's the point and, people that are, like kind of eco-friendly, kind of weird and they're kind of like, they're kind of Birkenstock wearing hippies and stuff. And so again, that's why I'm trying to, basically show how like some of the things that I learned from my involvement with Tango stuff, or just lessons that can really be taken to any kind of movement and stuff. You got to point to a destination. And so for me, at some point, it was not just about dancing tango. It was about a community. It was about one where people felt they were part of a community, something larger and stuff. And for us, like, we had the weekly events instead of the typical thing where people just paid, $10, $15 and, like kind of were a customer, if you will. We made them part of the community. Like when setup was run by volunteers, taking the chairs down, like kind of, food was like kind of bought by, volunteers, the DJing, on and on. It was a community effort. And so we knew that at some point that like that was what it was more about. It was about this idea of community, not about just simply dancing tango and kind of, paying your, money and saying goodbye at the end of the night and stuff like that. We believed in also shrinking the change. Like if we kind of decided right off the bat to kind of like start this massive movement and stuff, it was too much. It was like at each point we started like with a weekly, like the way we started was with a weekly event. It was then grew into something that we had occasional workshops and occasional special theme nights and stuff. And then next thing you know, we had this national event and stuff. So it was just kind of like mushroomed. But the idea is that like rather than kind of starting off with this kind of massive thing of doing, shrinking it down to like things that are really kind of tangible and doable and stuff. We just basically had a weekly event, invited friends. We kind of just kind of grew from that. And then of course it was about growing your people. Then it was like kind of we would actively like invite people to be part of us, to be a volunteer, to join us, to ultimately if you want to try DJing, like great, we'll teach you how to do that. If you wanted to teach at some point, if you like gotten a certain level of proficiency, absolutely. If none of those kind of work for you yet, then if you want to just help us set up chairs, if you want to help us to collect money and stuff, there was this trust. But again, it was like kind of growing this culture, growing this kind of like movement from just very much involving people and having this identity and stuff. And it was like about habits. It was about like kind of like we said, it was setting up the weekly events. It was about like different times, what would it take to kind of teach or to DJ and stuff. It was developing all these different habits and stuff that kind of involved other people that like then they became our people. And ultimately then, it's the idea of rallying the herd about like kind of, like different times, like we would have like, these theme nights that would really like kind of be like an all hands on deck to help decorate, kind of make the night special. We would have like, involvement with like kind of fundraisers down the line that like if somebody, if there was people like that were involved with, breast cancer research, or we had fundraisers where like one of the teachers was sick and stuff and she needed as much help as she could get. It was different times like kind of rallying around different causes that like again always with the same idea that the end in mind was to bring us together as a community, and then making it easy for people to kind of share our ideas. Like kind of like we had this identity as self space, and traditional people like would jokingly say, like, oh, you're one of those cell space dancers. We had such a unique identity at a certain point that, like, there was no kind of denying what we were about. That we were going to play funky music. We were going to have this kind of do this in a funky, dance space and stuff. And the thing was though, it was just contagious. And the next thing I know, as I've written about in that article, is that we knew that we had really came of age when at this national event and stuff, a traditional tango that was traditionally all traditional tango, they had a second floor that had alternative tango. So we knew that like we were onto something, much bigger than ourselves and stuff. But, at the same time, it's that thing that like we did something that was like unique, that was kind of very tangible, that like different times that people could really grab onto. We would even different times have like before the days of the flash mobs, we would have these what we call hit and run milongas, where we would go to like Union Square and San Francisco there, and then just dance in public and play with music with the boombox and stuff. So the key with all this is really the idea that like I talk about the hero's journey, that like when like who you are got you to where you are and stuff like that, where you are, but who you're becoming is going to get you where you want to be. And so that idea is to me the ultimate of the hero's lesson of the hero's journey, and that Joseph Campbell of course talks about. And really like that takes into the idea that like all this in the end isn't about us, isn't about what we want to make of the movement. It's about helping others make their hero's journey. That's really, in the end, what this is all about to me. It's helping them to make that journey, because that's, the thing. It's like it's for them to be the hero. So I'm just sharing this, like some of my ideas and thoughts and stuff like that. Originally I thought about making this as a private message, but hopefully others will benefit from this. So I'm going to share this on YouTube, and as always, I invite folks to follow me on, Twitter or Blab at JYCMBA. And yeah, thanks for watching, and hopefully this really like kind of helps to kind of clarify some of the things. And definitely welcome any thoughts or questions.